My guest on today's podcast is Dustin Nguyen. I first met Dustin on the set of my brother's film, Rapid Fire, and now we have become friends through our work on Warrior. Dustin is a seasoned actor, director, and producer. He is the only Vietnamese triple threat that can work both in the US and Vietnam with equal success. As an actor, Dustin has worked on such successes as Little Fish, 21 Jump Street, Sequest, Floating Lives, and of course, HBO Max's Warrior, where he also is a director. In Vietnam, he's appeared in the blockbuster The Rebel and the critically acclaimed The Legend is Alive, and he starred in and directed Once Upon a Time in Vietnam, which went on to be the first Vietnamese film to be sold in over 20 countries. Affectionately referred to in Vietnam as the Vietnamese Clint Eastwood, Dustin is the rare talent that can traverse genres with ease. In addition to those talents, Dustin is a kind soul, a gentleman, and a spiritual seeker. You can see why we might be friends. For more information about Dustin and how to connect with him, please go to the show notes for this episode. But for now, get to know the Dustin that I know and love on this episode of the Bruce Lee Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Bruce Lee Podcast. My guest this week is Dustin Nguyen, actor, martial artist, part of the Warrior family. I'm so excited to have you here. How you doing, Dustin?
Good morning, Shannon. I'm great. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, happy to be here.
Oh, good. Yeah. So remind me, I know we've met, before you were part of Warrior, we've met, a number of times. Like, how far back does our relationship go?
Well, it seems like another life. It really is. When you were just so tiny. No. Well, I remember meeting you for the first time. I had the pleasure of working with Brandon, your brother,
Right.
on a film on Rapid Fire, and I was hanging out with him a lot. So I was in his trailer, and you walked in, and typical big brother. He was like, "Oh, it's my sister Shannon," and then you just sort of like timidly sat in the corner and didn't really say much, and that was our first meeting. I remember meeting you very clearly, even though it's a long time ago. I think it's gotta.
Yeah, that would have been like 91, I want to say.
Something. Yeah. Oof.
I know. That's 30 years ago, by the
when
way.
we were young and cool, Now we're just cool.
Yeah, exactly. I love that we have that connection through Brandon, and this season of the podcast, I'm talking about the theme is family, and I love that we have that connection through Brandon, and and now we get to work together, and you're part of the Warrior family, and that we've become friends and colleagues and all those sorts of things. So, I'm really grateful for our connection, and it's been really fun getting to know you.
Well, I can't tell you how, we didn't get a chance to meet initially at the beginning of Warrior, of course,
Right.
because of the distance, and you weren't able to be there. And I didn't come on, in the very first episode, so we never really met with the kickoff of the show. But I was just, so happy to know that that we kind of like come full circle in some way, and then when you came over to Cape Town, we got a chance to sort of reconnect, and so that was it's really nice. And then since then, with the break and keeping in touch, it's really nice. I've had a few sort of the Bruce Lee connection through the years in my career, and like I said, meeting you with Brandon, and then just kind of come full circle again with this particular project, where it's really means a lot to me. But it seems like the theme of Bruce Lee, your father, sort of recur in my life a few times. But this certainly is the height of it, with the show Warrior and getting to know you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your connection to Bruce Lee. I mean, where does that start? What is it exactly? I mean, was it primarily first through martial arts or through the movies, or and what do you take from that?
Well, like, I dare say, like all Asian kids growing up in Asia,
Yeah.
I grew up in Vietnam, and I remember when I was about 8 or 9, my brother and I used to, on the weekends, my mom would drop me off us off at the local cinema where they would show all the old Golden Harvest films and Run Shaw films,
Yeah.
and of course, the first time the Bruce Lee film came out, I was just smitten, and of course that was my first introduction with your father, and then through the years, when I got into the business, the film business, um, meeting and working with Brandon, and of course prior to that, Guru Dan Anasanto,
Mhm.
who I had the privilege of studying with him for several years when I first came to Los Angeles, and sort of seeked him out and study with him, and professional, on a professional level, there's been a couple of things that sort of the theme, the Bruce Lee theme. I did a Levi's commercial where they sort of pay homage to your father, and in a really nice way. And then Justin Lin did a film,
Yeah.
Finishing the Game, which was, as you're aware of, sort of it's kind of a fun take on, people trying to replace your father to try to find a new Bruce Lee, and all of the Asian American actors trying to deal with that legacy. So, like I said, through the years, it kind of keep coming up,
Yeah.
and then we have Warrior,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
something that your father wrote, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and speaking of Warrior, like I think it's been said over and over and over again, like, oh, there's such a feeling of family, and I call it our
Mm.
Warrior family and all that sort of thing. There's such a feeling of family on the set, with everyone. Is that like, what is your experience of that?
Okay, so immediately people are going to go say, this guy, what actor doesn't come out and say, "Oh, I hate the people I work with, and it's a terrible production." Every actor does interviews, "Oh, my castmates are the best," and da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it could truly be so. Why not, right? But for me, Warrior, I think it's like my fourth series in my
Mhm.
career, and I've been very lucky where the other three series that I work on, all of I would say 98% of my experience in showbiz so far has been with very nice people.
Mhm.
And but the nature of work, as you experience yourself, it's work. And you show up, you do your thing, you do the best of your ability, and sometimes you meet people that you really click with at that moment, and then you never see or hear from them again, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the standard. And then once in a while you meet a person or a group of people that you bond with enough where you stay in touch afterwards.
Mhm.
And in the case of Warrior, um, it's such a diverse group of actors, from Europe, from America, from Asia, and I just find myself, being somebody. I would have to say I'm probably the oldest guy in the show, and been around in the business the longest.
Mhm.
What I mean is, because of that, I really uh, cherish the innocence and the enthusiasm that the younger cast, and I'm not saying that in a condescending way,
Of
the
course.
younger cast in the show, and their attitudes. towards the work is very fresh, and
Mhm.
everybody is so committed to this
Mm.
show for various reasons.
Mhm.
And to find yourself working in, and you know, again, you go there and there's so many different personalities, and you don't expect everybody to click, but yet we all is bond by this common, well, I should speak for myself, desire to elevate the show and in on a level where it deserves because of the
Mm.
legacy behind the concept of the show. And
Mm.
then also the commitment of people like you and Justin Lin, Jonathan Troper, and Brad Ken, you know, the writers and everybody has such a, it's just sort of like the flag that we all run with, you know, and it kind of bonded us all. And
Yeah.
on a personal level, we're just lucky where we all just click, you know, and it's not just like we got people, you know, some people, well, you know, maybe just the Asian cast click, you know, but no, you know, we got all these different people from Europe and England, you know, we got Kieran, we got Tom, we got, you know, Joanna, but everybody just, every weekend we're with each other somehow. And it just feels, like you said, like a family. And I don't say that word lightly. And what does that mean, I guess, is, you know, for me, I guess what family means is where it makes you feel whole and it makes you
Mm.
feel sort of complete. I know it sounds syrupy, but you know, my
No.
castmates, you know, being around them, I feel whole. I'm a part of this machinery, this
Mm.
show, or this desire to do good work. Um,
Yeah.
but the people surrounds you makes you feel whole, makes you feel safe, where you can sort of
Mm.
express yourself naturally and to the best of your ability. And I think that's what I appreciate about the family aspect of it. You know, and I have to. I think this is the first time I'm saying it. After the first season of any show, and certainly with Warrior, you're very curious of how that bond holds up. You know, as you sort of
Right.
have some distance from each other, and uh, and we're just as tight going into the second season. You know,
Mhm.
we keep in touch with each other, even though everyone's different continents, but we keep in touch, and that bond still remains very strong. And I really look forward to, you know, to spending more time with them.
I know, well, now we've had this huge break between seasons 2 and the season 3 that is coming, but I mean, I wanted to talk about this and thank you because I was gonna ask you, like, what is the feeling of family for you? And that sense of wholeness and safety is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
And, um, I think that that there is something very special. I haven't been a part of a ton of series like you have, and I know that they're all special and they all have the bonds that you form in one way or another. But there does feel like there's something really special, really heart centered about the
Mm.
connection that we all share. And as you say, it's not just the Asian cast, and it's not just the cast and not the crew. And it's like there is this holistic sense to um, of camaraderie, of support. And even though, we've been now apart from each other for such a long period of time, and we're chomping at the bit to get back to do
Mhm.
season 3,
Right.
I'm so touched by how the connection continues, the enthusiasm continues. I'm still in touch with, so many people, as I'm sure you are as well. And we continue to get together here and there and show up for one another. It's really beautiful. And I mean, it feels really special to me. I assume it's a unique and special experience for you too.
Sure. You know, it's there's a certain there's definitely again, I mentioned earlier, again, this is my take on it, is the attitudes of the people from the top too. You know, you have people like yourself and the people that we deal with on a daily basis, like Jonathan Troper, who runs the show, Brad Kane, the rest of the writers, and even the Justins sort of involved from afar.
Mhm.
Uh, but they're they sort of set the tone, I think.
Mhm.
I don't think, because I've been in shows where you see clearly. I've seen shows where my friends involved with when the tone always comes from the top, and
Mhm.
it either comes from the heart or it doesn't. And again, I'm not saying every show has to be like
Mhm.
that. You can still run a great show. Everyone do a good job of being professional and all of that, but it doesn't necessarily come from the heart.
Mhm.
I dare
Mhm.
say that. I'll probably get criticized for that, it, but here I feel it comes from the heart. There's not a sense of rivalry, like, oh, so and so has a bigger part than me, or I wish I this person's career. I think that I don't sense any of that. It's just about the work, and then when we're together outside of set, it's just about you know how are you, man? What's going on today? What's going on with your
Yeah.
family? And it's a very personal thing where nobody is really sort of trying to assert themselves
Mhm.
uh, in the group, and and that's what makes it special. And I
Mhm.
think you know with it comes, of course, when you talk about family, it's to me, I have this idea, this concept that God put us on this earth, and before we come to this earth or this existence, we pick the people we interact with, and we pick our family, quote unquote,
Mhm.
for for reasons and for your own development as a human being.
And does that include chosen family, or are you just talking about, like,
Chosen
blood?
family, immediate family, let's call it blood family, and then you got
Yeah.
the other family that becomes a family.
Right,
You've chosen all of these people to come into your life,
right.
but certainly the people that are the closest to you, whether it's your blood family, or let's say in this case, the warrior family, because we see each other all the time. It can be a very complex, and it is a very complex, especially with blood family, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
think everybody will agree. I think it's the most challenging dynamic in a human being's life.
Yeah,
Your interaction with your mother, your son, your daughter, your father, your brother. It's just so complex and complicated in terms of there's so much joy and there's so much frustration and there's so much they can really bring you to the top of your joy and love, and they can make you really sad, or they can break your heart in a second, you know what I mean. And in this environment, uh it's challenging, and if you can conquer that, or not conquer it, but you can learn from it, you evolve better as a human being.
right.
And um and there's so much reward that comes from it, but it's very challenging. And I think the same thing with the warrior family, or a family like that, where you're working with so many different personality. It's no different from your regular family. There's people, nobody's perfect, right? And you learn to sort of like um accept everybody for all of that.
Mhm,
uh
mhm.
and so for me, that's the beauty of family. Sometimes it frustrates the hell out of you, but then there's moments of joy that comes, and moments of love and compassion that just makes it all worthwhile. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm sort of ranting on, but
Not at all. No, it's great, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people because the one thing we all have is family.
but don't you think so? It's such a complex dynamic, human dynamic,
Yeah.
when it comes to
Well,
family.
in some ways, I feel like it's designed to bring you all the things, right? All the love and all the joy, but also to sort of like push your buttons a little bit because it's designed to
Mhm,
help you to grow as a human being, to look within, to
mhm,
feel all the feels,
mhm,
and figure out how to navigate that for yourself. Like and those are the complexities, whether we're talking about family on a nuclear level or whether we're talking about it on a entirety of humanity level, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the certainly that's another kind of family, and well, I mean, again, like one of the things that I remember watching, and everyone has seen the interview, but your father talked about, I believe it's something like under the heaven, we're all like one family,
Yeah.
and it's really true. I think the older I become, and the way things are these days in society, in the world, and all the changes that we're going through, it's very clear, it's undeniable that we are interconnected and interdependent. Whether there's still a lot of people that don't accept that, but we are. You can see it clearly. One action from one individual here is going to trickle and affect somebody else, or one action from one country is going
Mhm.
to affect another country, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And, these times right now are very challenging. We have a lot of challenges that we're facing. We've always had challenges that we're facing, but it
Mhm.
just seems like everything is getting ramped up more and more, especially you know, with COVID and with, all of the things happening in the world and all those sorts of things. And I'm curious, no, without understanding fully that you know nobody's saying this is the answer or any of that, but in your sort of heart of hearts, what do you what do you think our human family needs to become more one family? What do you
Mm.
see out there in the world that could be helpful? What is your sense?
Sometimes I drive, and you stop at these red lights or intersection. I'm sure you've experienced this, and you see somebody stand there with a sign, you know,
Mhm,
help me or something, and you see enough of it these days,
mhm,
and I often think, uh, what's going on with this person? What happens 3 or 4 months ago, 3 or 4 years ago,
mhm,
that bring this particular person to this point. And when you start engaging in that type of thinking, when I started engaging in that, and then something kind of came to me and said, well, that's what we need. That we need to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, whether you call it compassion or
mm,
sympathy, or I'm not sure the exact word for it, but what we need as a human race, and I'm constantly working on it now, is to really think about the other person. I guess is the idea of being selfless.
mm,
The idea of being selfless, because I think, and I use that word. I don't want to be critical one way or another or judging, but what I mean, I think it's very natural that we all sort of caught up in our daily lives and all of its
yeah.
challenges. Where of course you're going to think about yourself, and you're going to take care of your own cares, but I think there's a point where if you remove a lot of that, uh, and put that attention outside of yourself and on other people and
Mhm,
what they're going through, and
mhm,
what their needs are, or what their challenges are,
mhm,
I find that it helps lighten the load for myself a lot when I take the
mhm,
attention off myself. Um,
mhm.
it's unrealistic to say that I can do what Mother Teresa does, right? Or any one of us, right? Well, we can just sort of devote our lives to take care of all of these things that are going on in society. But I think the first step is just to put yourself, and try to understand and try to, what somebody said to me the other day, that all we need to do is just sort of open our heart, and when you approach somebody, you
Mm,
approach them with goodwill, in your
Mhm.
heart and with love. And
Mhm.
again, these words uh, can sound very philosophical and romanticized, but I thought about it a lot and I practiced this, and it really
Mm.
makes a difference when you just
Yeah.
sort of consciously approach somebody, whether it's a stranger or somebody
Mm.
with your heart open, with goodwill towards them,
Yeah.
and with love. And it's really amazing how the world sort of changed very subtly for you, for me
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
that I think that's what the human race needs. And there's a lot of good deeds out there. There's a lot of people that are practicing this, that what we're talking about, and I'm really grateful for those kind of people. But we
Mhm.
certainly, it clearly that we need our leaders to practice this and not have
Mm.
so
Well,
um,
it's a tiny perspective shift of, like, from stranger to the notion of, like, "Oh, fellow human,"
mhm,
right? And that you're talking about, that really makes all the difference, And, I think you can call it compassion, you can call it empathy, you can call it whatever you want, but, I talk about in my book, my book is Be Water, My Friend. And the last chapter I talk about, the words my friend
mhm.
are meaningful actually. It's not, oh hey, be water. It's be water, my friend,
Yeah.
and it's like the idea, the energetic resonance of the word friend. Like if I'm
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, that's my friend," or my colleague or these words that we use, like they carry an energy of, oh, somebody that, I have a warm feeling toward. And I think that that's sort of what you're talking about, right? Like just approaching the world with this open heart, with this warm feeling for people, as opposed to, like fear or a
Mhm.
standoffish feeling, or it makes all of the difference in the world.
No, exactly. I mean, you said it. You said it there. That's what the word I was searching for is. It's frequency.
Mm,
It's frequency and energy, right?
mhm.
And you brought up a really good point because it's funny how I really this is this affirms my belief, like attracts like. A few days
Yeah.
ago I was reading a book about the power of words.
Mm,
And what you're talking about, or when you say my friend, or when you
mhm.
say uh, a word, um, you can say that, or you can say it with mindfulness, where you can say it
Mm,
from your heart, right?
mm,
And that word that you use, in this case, let's say my friend,
mm.
it has an energy, it has a frequency. If you are mindful of what it is when you're saying it from your heart,
Yeah.
versus you just saying it because it's part of your vocabulary, and you just, oh, my friend or my buddy, or what, uh,
Yeah.
and that you're not engaged, with your heart and your mind, and there's a frequency to it. But you exactly, that's what it really is, because that's when you can connect with people in a very meaningful way, and that takes awareness, and that takes work. I think just the same way it takes work to learn how to do a perfect side kick, or how to do a punch. It takes work. It's not something that just you can just kind of like do it for 2 seconds and leave it. um,
Mm.
but that's the difference, and because words are so powerful. And I
Yeah.
think, we're so smart, the brain is so smart, and we take language for granted. And when we're interacting with each other, and we say things, even with things that we say to ourselves, we're not
Yes.
we're not aware of the power of these words.
Yeah. 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 No, you bring up a very important point. And I think that's what I love about the way my father would use it, is he would use it as, uh, not as a descriptor, like, oh, that guy's my friend, but like, but he's talking to you. He's calling
Mhm,
you friend, you know?
mhm,
And he did that all the time. He's like, listen, my friend, like, or
mhm,
walk on, my friend, or keep blasting, my friend, be water, my
mhm.
friend. It carries that energy, just as you say, of like, I'm carrying the energy of friendship. And I just feel like, if we could all carry that energy, even just the potential of this is potentially a friend, in our hearts, that it would that I agree with you. I think it would make a huge difference in the
Well,
world.
look, I mean, if you want more concrete evidence than that, this is not just uh, spiritual talk or anything like that, hippie talk.
Yeah,
Quantum physics and science has proven, when you put out a certain frequency, that frequency or that energy vibration attracts exactly that frequency. So when you're
yeah,
talking about the potential, when you open your heart, or you offer friendship, or you offer trust, or love, or whatever, it's
mhm,
gonna come back to you. You know, because that's the law. That's the law of the universe, and
mhm.
you just have to trust that. I mean, you can't. Can't reason and debate about it. Just like electricity. I mean, it is what it is. You can't argue. You can't debate it, even though you don't see it. It's just one of the laws of the universe, and its
Yeah,
frequency and its energy.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, you
I
step in the room, right? I mean, you've been in a room where you walk into a room and you sense a certain vibratory energy that either makes you
yeah.
very comfortable or uncomfortable, or a particular group of person. I mean, that's what it really is. It's
Yeah,
undeniable.
it is, and I think that's the thing that we all sense with my father is his energy. Like when you were saying like, "Oh, I saw him in the movies." There was something about him specifically that his energy, it just like leaps off the screen at you, and it makes you go like, "Ooh," it makes you lean forward like, "Ooh, what is that? Who is that guy?"
Mhm,
You know,
mhm, mhm,
because he cultivated his energy, very much, and because of that, like you say, you walk in a room, you can feel these things, like you could feel that from him. And so I do think like understanding life at the level of energy, and the energy we all carry, and the energy we put out, and the energy we want to receive, and all of that kind of stuff is a place, hopefully will more and more of us will look toward.
mhm. Back to your father, what you're talking about, people like your father and
Mhm.
others. Well, I figured it out. What it is, it's a lot of things, but what I've for sure is it's this enthusiasm about life.
Yeah.
People like your father, they have this overflowing enthusiasm for life, enthusiasm for knowledge, enthusiasm to better yourself, and they get excited about life. And I'm not saying it's 24/7. I mean, we're all human beings. We all have our up and downs, and
Sure.
that's part of life. But the things that are different about these kind of people, like your father and others, is they're so enthusiastic about life, and
Yeah.
that's why you sense it. And
Yeah.
it's very inspirational to be around people like that, or to encounter them, and it's
Mm.
inspirational, where they inspire you to be enthusiastic about life, because there's a lot of things about life that is worth that, and that's what I think, from that enthusiasm and that energy, that's what makes them magnetic and
Yeah.
charismatic, whatever you call it. It's not
Yeah.
something that you can say, okay, I'm going to be charismatic, and show them how charismatic I am. But I think
Yeah.
it's naturally they have trained themselves, or they have disciplined themselves in whatever way. But it's a genuine enthusiasm for life, and to me, that's really is the big inspiration from people like your father and all the great people like that. And I think we all
Yeah.
can really learn from that, and be inspired by that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. More and more, I've been sort of sitting with that too, like, oh, I want to tap into the frequency of life, and not
Mhm,
like alive life. My
mhm.
father had a quote, the meaning of life is simply that it is to be lived.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, but what does that mean? Like, if I really sit with that, if I really like, what does it mean at the highest level to live my life, to fully live life? right? Like, I agree with you. There's a vibration. It's like living life at the vibration of life, at the vibration of aliveness. And it's
Mhm.
not easy. It's like something you actually have to like train into
That's
because
it. That's it.
because life is buzzing at a really high frequency, you know?
Mhm. No, it really is, and it's I mean, we can talk for hours about this, and
Yeah.
many people have written books about it, but it's just really about, like you said, dialing into that excitement of life. Not to say you got to be buzzing around all day, and be the life of
No,
the
no, of
party,
course.
but just really appreciate the moment and appreciate all the wonders that is around you, because again, it sounds very cliche and all that, but I look at when one of the beautiful things, and you have children, when they're younger, like my 1 year old now, even my 6 and my 8, they see the world with everything is a wonderment for them, right? And we've lost that. We've lost, or we're taking it for granted when we grow up. And I
Yeah.
watch my 1 year old, and she's just buzzing at that energy that we're talking about, because everything is a wonder, and I think that's really the key, is just to be aware. And it's not just you convincing yourself, because there are a lot of full of wonder, like wonderful things
Yeah.
around you. We just don't see it because we get caught up in a lot of things. But
Yeah.
that's really, it can be that simple, but it takes practice. It takes
Yeah.
practice,
For
just
sure.
like practicing the kick.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But I think when you're around people that are like you, that think
Mhm.
like that, or you establish a community. I think in Buddhism, uh, they stress a lot of importance. I think even most religion, the idea of a sangha, or a community, or a support,
Mhm.
or a family around you, people
Yeah.
who thinks like you and subscribes to the same vibrational thoughts.
Yeah.
All that is great, because by yourself you can just sort of get discouraged and you can get strayed. But
Yeah.
when you have a family, a community around you that subscribe to that type of thinking, that kind of living, um, uh, it just lifts you up, and I think that's very important. Back to what we're talking about, family. That's
Yeah.
another aspect of family that I've learned, to sort of surround yourself, besides your immediate blood family, with people around you that supports you in that type of frequency.
Yeah. Which is why I knew this conversation was gonna be good because 'cause we've had some of these conversations already.
Yeah, it's great to be able to talk about it from
Yeah.
people who gets it. I'm not saying that we're a genius or anything like that. What I'm saying is,
No.
I think, unfortunately, uh, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here has been misconstrued through the years, because of bad representation, where it's like ooey ooey talk, or you're kind of
Yeah.
out there, man.
Yeah.
But again, it's all backed up by science and quantum physics, and it just really comes down to that level of realness. It exists,
Yeah.
and it just that we're not aware of it, and we don't give it credit, because it's what you put out you get back, and what you are, right, your surrounding. Now, I think what some
Yeah.
of the people say, you pick 5 people in anybody's particular life,
Yeah.
and you want to know that person, you pick the 5 closest person that he or she interact with on a daily basis, and that's going to pretty much shape you one way or another.
Yeah. 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 No, I love what you're saying and what you're sharing, and I think the thing is, and I agree with you, like, a lot of times, a lot of these ideas and thoughts and concepts get caught up um, in an unapproachable sense of spirituality or magical thinking or whatever you want to call it.
Mystical, very mystical.
Mystical. But what I love that you said is that, even just in this realm, like where you're like, surrounding yourself with people who share the way that you think and all, it's really mostly about, for me, in part anyway, like surrounding myself with people who have that enthusiasm for
Mhm.
life and who want to live life and who want to understand. how to live life better, and more joyfully, um, and with more love and with more light and all those kinds of things, right? So it's just that enthusiasm and being in contact, like having quote unquote family, however they come into your life, who share an enthusiasm for wanting life to be the best that it can for themselves and everyone around them is it's nutrition, like for the
Mhm,
soul.
mhm. Yeah.
And it does uplift you. It helps you when you have those moments of struggle, which we all have.
Mhm.
So, yeah. But before we go, just tell us, I do have one more question for you, but tell us first, like, what are you doing these days? What are you excited about? What's happening? Other than season 3 of Warrior, which we know is coming, but
Oh, everyone's counting their days on that. Um, I'll tell you, I spent most of my times this last year just being with my children,
Mm,
and uh, and I can't get enough of it because it's a blessing in disguise, that we all sort of limited our activities this last couple of years. Because prior to that, my two older children, when they were born and when they were growing up, the early years, which is you miss so many wonderful things when they're progressing from 1 year old to even 5 and 6, and you're away on
mm,
film sets and you're working. And but this time I've spent so much time with my new baby, my new daughter, and also my two other daughters too. Um, and it's just amazing. It's been amazing for me. Um, and then I go off and do some work. Like in a couple of weeks, I'm going off to Budapest, Hungary, to do a film there. And and then of course after that there's another project lineup, and then we have Warrior season 3. So I'm really looking forward to all of that work coming up and seeing everybody again. But aside from that, again, I think just spending this downtime with my children.
mm.
I've been reading up a lot. I love to read, and I really miss reading.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of things, again, today, when we have this conversation, it's just all meant to be, I suppose. Um, because a lot of the things I've been reading in the last few months is pretty
Mm,
much along some of the things we're talking about.
mhm.
Um, so that's kind of what I've been up to, and reconnecting with a couple of old friends. Uh, you know, not off the record, but off the track a little bit. Talking about what you put out and what you get back. I have an old friend. Well, I have not. It's not a friend. It's a person, as acquaintance that did something pretty horrible to me
Mm,
a couple of years ago,
mm,
and I carry that anger and for a long time, in the
mm.
last 2 years. And I had this revelation the other day as I was reading this book, um, and it talks about forgiveness. Right.
Mhm.
And so I reconnected with this person, and this person was quite shocked. They were very defensive because we're basically adversarial in
Yeah,
terms of what happened and all that. And
yeah,
he knows he did a horrible thing.
yeah.
And I just looked at him and I said, "Look, uh, let's just forget what happened. I've thought about it a lot, and I forgive you."
Mm,
And I remember he was just sort of shocked, and I was actually kind of shocked that all these words came out of me.
yeah,
Um, and you just immediately after that, you just feel these walls just sort of melting away between him and I. And I'm not saying we're going to be buddies or anything like that from now on, but
yeah,
as one human being to another, I felt like we both just sort of got rid of this piano on our back that we've been
yeah,
carrying, all this sort of
yeah,
poison. negative
Right.
energy that we've been harvesting towards each other in this adversarial environment. I guess what I'm saying, you asked me what I've been doing. I guess it's
Yeah.
just kind of searching myself and try to better myself a little bit and deal with some loose ends. But
Yeah.
it goes back to what you're saying about what you put out, and it's
Yeah.
really true, Shannon. I remember, I mean, if there's ever an example, I experiencing it myself, you really feel the power and the truth of it. Because when you hear, it's that thing like forgive your enemy or
Yeah.
that kind of thing, or forgiveness is all, and it sounds great theoretically, but to experience this, like I said, this sort of this weight that just kind of come off you, and you realize, man, that's how you got to live, right? You can't
Yeah.
carry.
Yeah.
I guess the point is, I don't want to get sidetracked, but the point is, what you put out, you get back, and
Yeah.
it truly did, because your enemy or your adversary, their weapons are pretty much useless if you send out this
Yeah.
loving, forgiving energy, because you're not going to reciprocate that, right? Because then it just kind of keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a weird
No, I
answer.
I think it's beautiful. First of all, thank you for speaking so vulnerably and sharing yourself so much. I really appreciate that. And I know people listening really appreciate it too, because these are the human things, right? We all do, we all struggle with these sorts of things. So I think it's just beautiful when other people get to hear, someone else's experience. And what you said about forgiveness, I think is really powerful. And I heard a really great definition of forgiveness, and I'm probably gonna
I like to hear. I like to hear it.
I'm probably gonna butcher it a little bit. I did write it down, but I don't have it in front of me right now. I was listening to Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. speak, and he said that he had heard a definition of forgiveness, which was um, forgiveness is when you no longer let the past affect you.
Mhm.
You let go of it. Which is essentially what you're saying. It's like,
Thank
I've
you. Like,
been stewing on this, and I've been thinking about it, and I've been really hurt, and I've been reliving that hurt, and I've been picking it apart, and I've da 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 da. And it's like, oh, I've decided to let the past go, to let the
mhm,
past be in the past. And it doesn't mean, like you said, like, oh, now we're gonna lock arms and be
mhm.
buddy buddy. Like, but I'm no longer gonna let the past affect me so greatly. It's done. It's in the past. And so
No,
I
the way you articulate is definitely not, that's really about it. It's not so much about the other person. I'm not saying the other person is not important, but it's
right.
about you. It's about
Yes.
you,
Yeah.
uh, your better health, your better mental space. It's just really about
Yeah.
cleaning and cleansing yourself from that experience. That's what's
Yeah.
really important, right? Because we're the one that sort of carry this,
Yeah.
this tragedy in our mind, and we beat ourselves up, and we get angry, and we do. It's really us, really, right? We're the maker of our own movies, and this
Yeah.
particular script that you keep carrying in your head. And
Yeah.
the minute, like you said, you just cut it off and you say, look, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this movie. I want to make a different movie.
Yeah.
and but it lightens you up so much. So it's really about ourselves,
Really,
not so
yeah.
much of the other person, but it's about ourselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's that command of ourselves. Like your father talked about a lot through the martial arts. But
Yeah.
he's such a wise man. He understands that it extends above it. It all comes back to just knowing yourself and having command over your thinking and your thoughts and how you tick. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy for us to blame the other person. Man, you made me really angry, or you screw me over, and I'm suffering. But we choose to suffer from that experience, right? The same
Yeah.
way like you said, you just say, man, I don't want any. I'm tired of this movie. Let's make a
Yeah.
different movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. So this is one question that I ask everybody that comes on, which is if you had one, and you've already shared a lot, so maybe it's something you've already said, but I'll ask it anyway. Um, if you had one piece of wisdom or one lesson that you've learned in your life that has been really helpful to you that you could just share and give to another person, what would that be? And it doesn't have to be like the top piece of wisdom, just any piece of wisdom or lesson that you could pass down.
Um, hmm. My, my nature is usually you always want to sort of be the best, and a lot of it comes from competing in the martial arts and tournaments when I was younger, and just in general, just sort of want to be the best, and that's okay too. And when I got into showbiz, you always feel like you got to really prove yourself a lot because you're an Asian American and you got to be 10 times better than everybody else. And it's that drive that, um, and then I realized in my later years that, and I guess this is the one advice I would share, is that I realized you don't need to compare yourself to anybody.
Mm,
You really don't need to, and you can't, because it's impossible. You set yourself up for a lot of heartaches.
right.
um, you just gotta really work on the best of your ability, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a martial artist or you're a painter or actor, and be the best that you can be, and trust that the universe, or the divine force around you, is going to bring what's best for you. And again, I'm not saying this, I've experienced this firsthand. The minute you start to do that, things will come your way, and things that are rightfully yours. I mean, I've been through sometimes in the early years when I was a young actor, and you miss out on certain films or auditions, and it just breaks your heart.
Yeah,
And then you realize down the road, wow, that was like the best thing that could happen to me, because because
yeah,
because I missed out on that. But my point is, it's not just about movies and all that. I think in life, my advice would be to really be the best that you can be, and just trust in the universe, and how your life will unfold itself accordingly.
mhm.
Not to say that you're gonna be lazy and sit in your butt on the couch, and all
Well,
good
being
things.
the best means not just sitting on the couch, right?
The universe not going to bring that. Well, if you sit on the couch, the universe is going to bring you exactly that. Of course, I do that. But I think it just, I've learned that to trust your heart, what your heart tells you. Trust the universe. The universe always takes care of you, in a sense
Mm,
where, the things that are good for you will come to you.
yeah.
And I think that's what I've learned the most in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful, and I think too that also the things that the universe brings that are challenging for you, if you
Mhm.
rise to meet those challenges to the best of your ability, then um, amazing things can come from that. You know, a
You
lot
gotta
of
have those.
growth and
Yeah. You gotta have those. I mean, without those, life would be really boring. I mean, seriously, of course, it's easier. Look, I mean, Shannon, you've had your shares of up and downs. Everybody
mm,
does, and
yeah,
it's a lot easier once you've gone through those and you look back. You can say with authority that
yeah,
without those challenges in your life, first, your life would be really boring. Who wants a life without? You know, I mean, I'm not saying when you're going through it, it's like, oh man, I got to deal with this, but if you want to be a good skier, you got to fall down several times. It might even
yeah,
twist your ankle, twist your knee, but
yeah.
then you become a better skier. And that life, you got to have those challenges. You got to have them.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you don't really understand the true nature of peace and contentedness in your soul unless you've faced some challenges. Yeah, there's pleasantness and comfort and ease, but we're all at home with our inner dialogue in our brains um uh looping around all the time,
Mhm.
and to really understand, like, oh, what it is to have a peaceful life that is joyful and ease is because you faced some challenges and made it through the other side.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, certainly, certainly.
yeah, yeah. Oh, Dustin, it's been so amazing talking to you, as always, and I'm glad that people get to have a window into our conversation. This is the kind of conversation
It's
that we
always it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I remember, when we had during the break, we had our first lunch together,
Yeah,
and when Chen was there,
yeah,
and we just kind of naturally got into to certain kind of talk, and
yeah,
ever since then, I've always felt like, you know I could always sort of share. I look forward to sharing these things with you because we sort
yeah,
of have this, you know, same sort of mind, and
totally.
and it's really a pleasure. And then today, it's just really a pleasure as well. So, and I look forward to
Yeah.
more of this.
Oh, really a pleasure for me too. And, and I think you know this, but I really do consider um, my warrior family a part of my extended family, and especially getting to know you and us having, these similar thoughts and discussions.
Mhm.
Like, I'm here for you. So if there's ever anything, just reach out. And I'm so grateful, and I look forward to collaborating more and talking more, and Warrior season 3.
Yeah. And then this season, I'm hoping I'm gonna get,
Yeah.
I'm manifesting. I know you're gonna do it. You got to do a special guest star this coming season, but I hope that particular episode I'll get to direct it, or at least I'm gonna be involved in it. While you were there. So they're really looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. We don't know yet
Mhm.
exactly what's
Mhm.
going to happen, but looking forward to it.
We manifest it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll work on that. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Such a pleasure. And I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation. And I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Shannon.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.